There's something happening behind the scenes that no one's really talking about right now. The United States Air Force just quietly slammed the brakes on its recruiting mission for 2025. I need y'all to let that sink in. This is the same branch that a couple years ago, they widened their eligibility requirements. They started doing enlistment bonuses. They started loosening up on tattoo policies. They started changing the body fat measurements for which people were allowed to come in. And now they're cutting back on how many new people can join. Why? Because they already hit their goal and it's only May. This hasn't happened in years, y'all. But that's not even the big story. The big story is what this means for you. I'm gonna be honest for y'all. The window is closing right now. And if you want to put on an Air Force uniform, there's some things that you got to do to come correct. Because we're heading back to the days of when the Air Force had the highest standards and the lowest acceptance rates of all the branches. So here's how you beat it. But first, there was a time when joining the Air Force was like applying for Harvard. Only the sharpest minds, the cleanest records, and the fittest bodies made the cut. Then COVID hit. The workforce changed. The economy bounced. And by 2022, every branch was hurting for people. As a matter of fact, in 2023, the Air Force missed this recruiting goal by almost 10%. And that was the first time that this happened in over 2 decades. And so to survive, they had to make big changes. Big changes like allowing more waivers, relaxing the tattoo and the body fat standards. They added naturalization programs and streamlined enlistments to make everything easier. And they threw big bonuses at the qualified candidates. Even with all that, they barely met their 2024 goal. That goal was about 27,000 active duty recruits. So for 2025, they plan to go big. 32,500 new airmen. That's nearly like a 20% jump for the Air Force enterprise. But here's where things get weird. They already hit it, and now they're pulling back hard. Why? Because they overestimated their attrition. That's basically the people who are getting out, the people who are separating, or the people who are getting kicked out. But airmen are staying in. The retention is sky high, and that's over 90% in most career fields. So if people aren't leaving, then they don't need to bring new people in. Let me break this down. The military doesn't just hire people for fun. It actually works like this. They're given a budget and an end strength. Basically, the end strength is how many people they're allowed to have in uniform. If someone gets out, they retire, they get kicked out, whatever it is, they need to be replaced. And that's where recruiters come in. They fill the gaps. But if there's no gaps or fewer than expected, then the recruiters don't need to fill as many spots. And so in 2025, the Air Force trimmed 4,700 billets from its original plan. That's huge, y'all. And it means fewer jobs to offer. Check this out. When there's fewer jobs to offer, the recruiters can become selective. And I mean really selective. So we're entering a new era of sorts, kind of like the old era, actually. And if you want in, you're going to have to fight for your spot. So really, this changes everything. The Air Force doesn't need just anybody. They want the best of the best of the best. And this is what that means. The waivers, they're going to get tighter again. If you got a medical history that's really complicated to work, or you got law violations, drug history, most recruiters aren't going to give you the time. Maybe for the medical stuff, because there's really nothing you can do about that. But like drug history and law violations, you're going to have a really compelling story, or you're going to have to know somebody to get one of those done in these new times. The job availability will shrink. So realistically, the people who are sitting in the delayed entry programs right now waiting for a job, those jobs are going to come fewer than ever, especially if you're trying to be particular and picky about your job. Also, the recruiters are going to start to demand more. It's not going to be any more hand-holding, any calling you, begging you, and seeing where you're at in the process. They're going to expect you to come squared away. They're going to expect you to have all your documents in hand, like your social security card, your birth certificate, your driver's license, your high school diploma. They're going to expect you to have your medical records, your court records, pretty much everything that you need to get this process started. They're going to expect you to come with that right off the bat. I've told y'all before, and I'll say it again, the easiest way to get turned away is to show up unprepared. So I want to help you all out. So here's what you need to do to make sure that your recruiter gives you a chance before the next person. The first thing you're going to want to do is crush the ASVAB. Y'all know the Air Force ASVAB minimum score is a 31, just like all the other branches. But in these times, you can expect these recruiters to start saying that you have to score a 50 or higher in order to join. So the days of the 31s, the 35s, the 40s, those days are not going to be here like they used to, unless of course you're trying to do security forces. But if you're not trying to to do a job like that, then you got to start scoring high. Y'all know I'm always recommending study.com, but now more so than ever is the time where you need to find a good resource to start studying. For me, I have to recommend study.com because, like I've said in my previous videos, it has helped thousands of my viewers join the military. It's just too easy. It's too good of a resource for you to have. And if you put the work in, which you're going to need to, you can score above a 50 using this program. You can use any type of studying resource that you want, but study.com to me is the easiest one. It does come with a pretty good price, but with my link in the description box, it will give you 25% off for a discount. Secondly, if you're going to need a waiver, y'all, I'm telling you, these recruiters are going to be very picky, but if you're going to need a waiver, then you need to go get everything you need for a waiver. A lot of y'all don't even understand how waivers work. So a recruiter is going to need your police records, it's going to need your court records, it's going to need everything regarding that actual offense that you've had. Not only will you need all the records, but you will also need to write a letter stating what happened, why it happened, and why it won't happen again, and also why you think you're a good candidate for the Air Force. And you don't want this letter to sound weak or cliche. You really want to be honest, you want to take accountability, and you want to show why the Air Force should give you a second chance. If you could have all your fines paid off, if you could have all your records, and you could show up to the recruiter's office with a letter in hand stating what happened, I'm not saying that they will work a waiver, but this is going to better your chances if you do need a waiver. I wouldn't wait to go to the recruiter's office and have them tell you what you need to do. You need to just show up so they can see that you're someone who is proactive in taking control of your future. Same thing with medical waivers. If you know you had a medical history, don't wait on a recruiter to tell you to go get your medical records. If you had ADHD, if you had anxiety, if you had depression, if you had broken bones, whatever it is, if you have some type of medical history, go get your medical records, go get your pharmacy records, especially like ADHD and all that. Get 5 years of your pharmacy records. Asthma, get 5 years of your pharmacy records. Show up with all these documents in hand. It just makes you look good. It makes you look like somebody they want to work because you'd already put in a lot of work yourself. Next, you're going to want to get in shape and you're going to want to stay in shape. These recruiters right now are having the luxury of picking the best and the finest applicants that they want. If you're out of shape or if you're close to your maximum body weight, then you're probably going to hinder yourself from being one of those top picks that the recruiters want. So you need to get familiar with the Air Force height and weight body standards. And if you are close to your maximum weight, I always recommend people to come in 10 pounds under that maximum weight. And the reason why is because if they measure you like an inch shorter than what you think you are, let's say you think you're 72 inches, but they measure you at 71, you're going to want to be in a weight that meets that requirement for 71 inches and so forth. Not only that, but the recruiters don't want to take on the chance of somebody coming into the delayed entry program overweight. If you come into the delayed entry program overweight, that's more work on them for them to manage you while you await a job. And like I said earlier, the jobs are going to come fewer and less than ever before. So you sitting in the delayed entry program could be like 6 to 8 months. And in that time, if you're already close to your maximum body weight, then it just gives you more chance for you to go over your maximum body weight while you're waiting. Recruiters do not want to take that chance. And lastly, we're talking about jobs and how the jobs are going to be fewer than ever. This is not the time to start being picky and telling the recruiter, this is all I want. I'm not joining unless I get this. I'm telling you right now, these recruiters are going to have the luxury to tell you to kick rocks and get out of their office because they don't have that many jobs to fill. So you trying to demand that you're only going to join if you get this one, they have a huge list of people who are waiting to join. And so you not getting your number one job is not going to affect the recruiter or the Air Force. So you need to start doing some research about the jobs that the Air Force needs. That probably will require you to get in touch with the recruiter to kind of see what they are hiring for right now. But you need to get familiar with that list. So those are my biggest tips for you all to stand out and try to get a job, try to get hired into the Air Force. Remember, this isn't a failure thing on the Air Force. This is actually a successful thing for the Air Force that they have to draw back on their recruiting. The Air Force is retaining its people. That is the prime goal of the Air Force, is to make sure that its people feel good enough to continue serving. But for you, that just means that the window's narrowing and you're not going to be able to slip through with a 33 on the ASVAB and a prayer anymore. So you're going to have to stand out. And like I said earlier, if you really want to stand out, you can start with the ASVAB. If you really don't know what that test means or what it entails, I got a video on the screen right now that'll break down everything you need to know about the ASVAB so you can try to boost those scores. But like I always say, I hope this video brought value to you. Stay beautiful, stay classy, and until next time, check me out.